everybody. Welcome to Phonogenics 101. I am your host, Jeremy Gloff, and today we are going to be discussing the music of Stevie Nicks. Please go to YouTube and subscribe to Phonogenics 101. I'd like to thank my Patreon subscribers. Even those that donate $1 a month, it stops me from having to have a second job, and instead I can do these wonderful podcasts. So anyone who's watching this, please consider donating. So today we're going to talk about Stevie Nicks. I have a panel here with Alicia and Kobe. Alicia, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how long you've been listening to Stevie?
Well, I am from here in the Carolinas. I have been listening to Stevie since '07. I started off with, I picked up Fleetwood Mac, and after a month I said, I like this, and this song, and it was all Stevie. So I did like a hard right turn and went into Stevie land instead of Fleetwood Mac, and I started picking up all of her records. And I guess around the mid 2015-16, I said, okay, let's now go back and pick up the Fleetwood Mac stuff. And I've been slowly enjoying myself going through their catalog. And I saw her once in the In Your Dreams tour, and then twice for 24 Carats, and I've had fun. It's been fun going through her music. It's quite good.
Now, how far back are you going with Fleetwood Mac? The Stevie years or going way back to the beginning?
Well, right now for the classic lineup, just because that's what I really know, but I can see myself going back to the very beginning.
Yeah, there's some great stuff all through the whole thing.
Well, the first thing I really picked up in '07 was that 4 CD box set from the early 90s.
Oh, the Chain?
Yes, that had Hypnotize and Lay It Down.
And it has that Paper Doll song, right? That was just on that one?
Yes.
I like that song. I know some people don't like it. I loved it.
Well, it's a pretty good song. The one that I think is kind of a hot mess is that Questions.
No Questions Asked?
Yes. And it's like, it has a couple good lyrics, but it's just like.
See, I always love that one, that 80s indie guitar, but that's the thing about music. There's no right or wrong answer.
It's just different from kind of her rambling songs.
Yeah. Kind of like the new one she just came out with, which I love, but it's definitely a rambler. Well, Kobe, tell us about yourself, where you're from. You run a Stevie Nicks website, so give us the link. Tell us everything.
Well, I don't run an actual website. I just run a YouTube channel with the same, just Kobeus. I've posted just a bunch of random demos and stuff. Stevie really was kind of what got me into music. I always just kind of liked it, but I never really paid attention to listen to it. And then one day, just out of random habit, I looked up Edge of 17 because it's like, I heard this song on the radio. I feel like you're hearing it today. And eventually that spiraled out into a potential obsession. So I haven't actually got to see her live or anything, although I am definitely down to do that. I just have listened to a lot of her stories, and really I find with Stevie, I don't know if she's writing about herself or what she's writing about in this line, but in the song Blue Lamp, she says, don't listen to her, listen through her.
Yeah.
And I feel that is why I like her music so much, because she's not just telling her own story, but if you listen, you can hear your own stories within her songs.
And where are you located?
I am in the good old Midwest heartland.
Cool. And I'm down in Tampa, Florida. I don't think I said that.
Okay.
So the thing about Stevie Nicks, like, I feel like she might not be the most literate writer, but there's just something so unique about her writing style. I feel like she says things that nobody else, she touches on things that no one else ever has when it comes to like emotional complexity, at least to me. And that's what I love her music. I always go back, and when I'm really feeling a certain type of way, there's nothing else that can define it more than a Stevie Nicks song to me.
Yeah, well, I think her lyrics are very open-ended sort of songs. So, you know, I was listening to Street Angel last week, and certain lines were pulling out that I wasn't listening or didn't strike me years ago, or striking me now. It's kind of, and that's what makes her music cool. It's kind of the, you know, to go with Belladonna, coming out of the darkness is something that's striking me more now and than maybe a couple years ago. And
absolutely.
But that's what makes it so fun, is you're pulling different lines out or phrases as the years go by. But she seems to be kind of like a Jane Austen person. She knows the emotion and she kind of breaks it down. If that makes sense.
And, this may be controversial, but I think one of my favorite Stevie albums is Street Angel. And I know a lot of people do not like that album at all, but I have such a personal connection to that certain time in my life, 1994, 95, that I cannot wait to talk about that one.
Okay. Well, for me, it was an album that I didn't like at the beginning, but to me, it's just that it's Stevie saying, okay, I don't want to be the queen of gypsy, or the gypsy queen of rock and roll. Let me just do a straight album.
Right.
And, and I think once you get past all the mysticism and everything, that's a really good album to pick out. It's a good record. It's just, I feel like you have to put that disclaimer there. This isn't got the Rhiannons and the Room's on Fire. And
it's interesting because The Other Side of the Mirror was such a mystical, airy album. You know what I mean? So it's she went from one extreme to the next.
Yes.
But today we're discussing Belladonna. So this was Stevie Nicks' debut album from 1981. She joined Fleetwood Mac, and if I do anything that's wrong, correct me, you guys. But she joined in 75, I believe. New Year's Day, right? Or New Year's Eve? Didn't they all go to a Mexican restaurant? Isn't that the legend?
Yes, on New Year's Eve, and then she was in.
And they recorded the White Album, which was a sleeper at first, but then eventually became a huge hit. Then, of course, everyone knows about Rumors. Tusk itself is another legend. And then after Tusk, Stevie Nicks had so many songs and so many songs that still haven't been released. I mean, that was a very fertile songwriting period for her. And almost maybe her best songwriting came from that little window right there. And from that, I believe, came Belladonna. She contacted Jimmy, how do you pronounce his name? Iovine. Okay. She contacted Jimmy Iovine, formed her own record label, right, with Modern Records. And showed up with Sharon and Lori. She met Sharon in Hawaii, I believe.
At some point, yes.
Yeah. So, do you all remember the first time you heard Belladonna?
Yeah.
What was your first thoughts the first time you heard it?
It was just, I was kind of mind blown because that was really besides the greatest hits of Fleetwood Mac, that was really the first record of hers that I picked up.
Okay.
I found it through my mom and dad's CD collection. So I kind of threw it in. And so it was just kind of that introduction. And it's, I was surprised because I like kind of your gothic, darker side of music, which this is definitely into. It's got that in spades.
Right.
And it was just different because the lyrics are open-ended and it's got some great rockers.
Yeah.
And I remember just playing it for the next year on repeat. And I think my folks went, I think Alicia's got a new favorite.
Kobe, remember the first time you heard Belladonna?
The first time I've heard it cohesively as an album, because my introduction to Stevie and a lot of artists was less here's an album here, but more just hearing things on the internet and then piecing together. I was discovering I Can't Wait at the same time I was discovering Rhiannon.
Right.
So,
which is so weird.
But the first time I heard it as an album, the part that really struck me most was the production quality. I like people don't notice, but in Edge of 17, in my opinion, what really makes this song is the piano in the background.
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy Iovine and Waddy Wachtel and all those people have such a great ability, and it really showcases here to just layer and blend all these instruments to form really one sound out of 100.
Right.
And that really is what pushes Stevie's vocals and her lyrics over the top on this album.
Yeah. What was the piano player? Was it Roy from the E Street Band, or am I imagining things?
I think that was for the live when she went on tour, wasn't it?
What? Maybe. I know, like, sometimes in the comments, someone's going to crucify me because they're like, oh, you're stupid. You don't know anything. Let me take a look at the liner notes here. I got to put on my glasses. So, Edges 17. So I have the CD, and then I have the deluxe edition CD, which they came out with a couple years ago, which was awesome.
I'm looking on Wikipedia here just for like basic information, and it says that
Roy
Benmont did.
Oh, Benmont Tench.
Yeah, I believe he was. He was from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Okay.
And I don't know if it is an organ. There's also Roy Bittan on some piano on some tracks. And
I know Roy Bittan, I believe, played on Bonnie Tyler's album. So there's some great piano on that one too. So let's start. Okay, well, I'm a little bit all over the place. I remember Belladonna when it came out because I was born in 1975. So of course, when my mom was like cleaning houses when I was a kid, she was always playing the Fleetwood Mac stuff. And then when I was in kindergarten, I bought records instead of toys. So my first favorite band was Blondie. And then Fleetwood Mac / Christine and Stevie and everybody was my second favorite band. So I remember Belladonna. Everybody had the vinyl. I mean, that was such a hit album. I'm from a small town in Western New York, and these songs were everywhere. All the girls had like the teased 80s hair, and they had their Stevie Nicks record. And I just remember the songs being on the radio everywhere. But I didn't start buying Stevie albums till Wild Heart. So that was the first one I actually like went to the record store and bought when I was 8, I guess. But Belladonna, it was such, like you said, Kobe, it's such a unique sound. I almost feel like there's no other Stevie album that sounds like this one. I know Pieces of Wild Heart maybe, but this album had such an organic, unique sound. What do you guys think?
Yeah, well, I mean, didn't like the Heartbreakers play a lot of like the backing?
Yeah.
Which then she never had again.
Right.
Or maybe a song here or there, but so that's one thing. I think it's also, as she goes through the 80s, she goes more and more synth on
right.
it. Where this one, it has like all the, can I say like real instruments? It doesn't have all the electronic stuff. So I think that helps hold it together. It kind of gives it that, unless you look on the back cover and see that it's released in 81.
Right.
It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like a pretty timeless record.
Yeah, this is definitely a timeless album. And I remember in an interview she was saying how she with the Rhiannon she always wore black, and that with this album she decided to wear the white, and of course the iconic "Coming Out of the Darkness" quote. And even looking at the cover now, like what a gorgeous piece of artwork, the front and the back with the tambourine. So. Yes. I don't know. Only Stevie can really take. And that, like, the thing I always loved is like on this early album, like she had the blue hair on Belladonna, then she had like the red pink on Wild Heart. I wish she would have kept that going.
Well, I wish she kind of kept the she had like the big flowing dresses for those first two, and then when she did Rock a Little, it looked a little. It wasn't. I don't know. I wish she did the one with like the rocking chair with the. Like the cradle, if that was the cover, that would have been much more. That picture would have been much more. But that's just me.
My friend better. Jeffrey, he's like, I can't do Belladonna or Wild Heart, but I'm there for Rock a Little. Like that's his favorite era of Stevie. So it's so interesting what people like.
Who?
My friend Jeffrey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I feel with Belladonna, Stevie Nicks had something to prove. You know what I mean? She's from the biggest rock band of all time. And she's going out on her own. I don't know if I can think of anyone that's had a career so simultaneous that's the band and the solo, and they're both such iconic bodies of work that don't really mix except when Fleetwood Mac does stand back in concert.
Well, I can think of Phil Collins and Genesis.
Oh, that's true.
But yeah, there's not too many. I mean, Steve Perry tried to do it, and after his first album, it didn't go very far after that.
It kind of started and ended with "Oh Sherry," right?
Yes. So Stevie's been very lucky and very fortunate, but I think Belladonna, I think, yes, Stevie had something to prove, but I think she was also, can I say, like, she was willing to be teachable in this album. I think she was willing to take advice because she wanted this record to be really good.
Right.
And as the time went by, the ego really kind of took over, and that's what I think makes kind of like Rock a Little and The Other Side of the Mirror very interesting records.
That's for sure. We'll have plenty to talk about when we get to those.
Yes. Right? This is kind of that record where you go, this is the perfect record. Go buy it. Deluxe is the best one. Okay, next. Let's talk.
So when you put on the record and the song Belladonna starts, like when she goes into that 3-part harmony, the opening lines of the album, you can ride high atop your pony. I know you won't, like it. Even when I hear it now, like I'm like tearing up a little bit. What a beginning of a solo career. You know what I mean? Like, and that's such an epic song. I love the Stevie Nicks epic title tracks, like Belladonna, Wild Heart. And then when she did it with Trouble in Shangri-La, I'm like, she's back with that epic title track. I'd love to get one more of those in this lifetime.
I think Belladonna, in my opinion, is one of, if not the strongest songs on the album. And I have 2 reasons for that. One, the guitar on that album, on that track, it sounds just incredibly so unique, and it adds so much to the melody and to just the general pacing of it that it really just makes it stand out. And also, sometimes with artists, they at the base level have this sort of magic. And so when you look at the demo version of Belladonna on the deluxe version, which is just Stevie and a piano,
right?
And literally the instrumentation is da 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 da, and it's literally just her on a piano, and it's a very, very simple melody. But even then, it works,
right?
And so that in itself lends this sort of strange, this song is going to happen no matter what instruments you put on it,
right? And when she brought it back for the 24 Karat Gold tour, like I couldn't believe I was hearing Belladonna live, and I couldn't believe how good it was. Like,
it was very good.
What I mean, and once again, someone was like next to me talking, and I said, I told him, I said, shut up. I never thought I'd hear Belladonna live, and you are not going to talk through it.
Well, I think people got tired of me just standing because I stand up for the entire show. But yeah, Belladonna, the title track, it is a very powerful opening number, and it's definitely a highlight for the record.
Off the top of your head, what do you all feel the song is about?
I know.
Probably.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I would say it's just a general reflection on the fact of her solo career. I don't remember if Stevie talked about this, or I'm just remembering somebody giving their own interpretation. But essentially, it is Stevie looking at her solo career existing and just sort of her fear of, if this record flops, she's going to be like, oh, God, I do need Lindsay. I do need Fleetwood Mac. And just the strife with the band that they're like, what do you mean you're doing a solo record on us? We have Mirage to do.
Right.
And just a general reflection on all those events. And with Stevie, she writes a song oftentimes about 10,000 different things.
Right, of course. And there are different lines that pop out to me at different times in my life that really like hit you that don't at other times. And I think, Alicia, you did mention that. What do you think of the song's about?
Well, I kind of cheated. I looked up some of her interviews earlier this month. So I know that this one is about the Tusk tour.
Okay. And
she was saying how, like, after Tusk, because it was such a long tour and that was really exhausting, she's like, I know I've only been in Fleetwood Mac for 5 years, but can I still actually do this? I guess her and Lindsay were really fighting at that point.
Yeah, you can see the tension on the tapes.
And So she was wondering, and that was where the coming out of the darkness, because that was such a not a good period for her and Lindsay. So that was where that line comes from. And your face has grown thin. I guess she was very stressed out.
Yeah.
And,
I love the no speed limit. This is the fast lane. Like,
yes. And so, but that was something I kind of found interesting because I never put it against Tusk. I just thought it was her talking generally about the rock and roll world. This is the fast lane, you're touring, and then album, tour, album. And kind of somebody's like, I know this. I know what you can act as big and famous as you want, but you're not going to scare me. It's kind of how I've always viewed it. I didn't ever pinpoint it to the Tusk time frame. But so that was something I learned here the last couple weeks.
And I could listen to Belladonna, and that guitar on there, Kobe, that you're talking about, it almost sounds like the guitar's crying in some places. Just the intonation, it's just so wonderful. I just love this song. So any thoughts on Belladonna before we move on?
It's just one of the highlights. It's just beautiful. And I would wish she would play it in full if she goes back on tour. If we can go see her again.
I know. We're all going to meet somewhere in the middle and watch Stevie live. It's got to happen. We're going to stand up the whole time. So, Kind of Woman, was that an older song that she kind of recorded for this album? That wasn't current to Belladonna, was it?
No. From what I found out, it was written like in 74 when Buckingham was working with the Everly Brothers. So when he was touring with them before they joined Fleetwood Mac, and she was, I guess, really worried that he was going to find ladies out on the tour.
Okay.
And so she's the lady at home in the song. So I guess the Everly Brothers thing for Buckingham was what, around 74?
So this is pre-Fleetwood Mac then, right?
Yes. 73, 74, somewhere in there.
It's interesting because I think it's in 3/4 times. So this is such a different sounding song. It's very ominous sounding, I feel like.
Yes.
Especially like the harm.
Yes. It's almost like she's wanting to haunt him, follow him around, go, I'm here, don't forget, you know.
I don't know if you all watched SNL back in the day, but they called Tampa the goth capital of the world. So I'm in Tampa, so it's only fitting that, we're talking about Stevie Nicks right here. But she really is like kind of the gothic queen, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I love Kind of Woman. It was never one of my favorite songs. It was kind of just like, after Belladonna, I just kind of kept the record playing. There's no song on this album that I dislike. You know what I mean? But there's some that I love more than others. And this was never one of my all-time favorites.
That makes sense. I mean, the first time I listened to the record, this was kind of the song you listen to and you go, oh, okay, that's great. But because it's sandwiched between this and Stop Dragging My Heart Around,
right?
I guess it can kind of get lost.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But it is a gem. I mean, it's a great song, but it does have to fight between these two really epic songs, strong songs.
I have to go let my cat in the door. I'll be back like in 10 seconds.
Hi.
So how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Life's been good for you.
Good.
You two know each other prior to this? Have you ever engaged?
No.
Before? No? Okay.
No.
Well, cool. Stevie brings people together. Kobe, do you have any thoughts on Kind of Woman?
So Kind of Woman, it's a very interesting song. We know it definitely was at least written by 76 because there's a demo in 76 where she's pianoing it. And because it was believed to be recorded around the same time as a bunch of her other like Rhiannon Project piano demos, it's thought that it is in some way meant to be involved with that. Which I'm not sure if she intended that or if she was just oh, I wrote this. I should, sing it. But Kind of Woman, just in terms on the album, effectively being the bridge between Belladonna and Stop Dragging My Heart Around, it is a little more like harder rock, but it's very, very subtly different because it's driven so heavily by the piano. And I feel that the song is very underrated. Kind of like you said, it's not really, my favorite song, but it's one that every now and then it's refreshing to hear because it does manage to stand out on the album, even if it is similar to other songs.
Right. And something that just occurred to me is how lucky is Stevie Nicks to be part of two different trios that have the best harmonies? Like, there's no better harmony than Stevie, Christine, and Lindsay. There's no better harmony than Stevie, Sharon, and Lori. And they both have such unique sounds, but those are like two of the best trios I've ever heard. Like maybe like Linda, Dolly, and Emmy Lou is like another trio that's as good as that. But the sound that Lori and Sharon brought to the Stevie Nicks solo records, I felt like they were so instrumental in part, like her reinvention. And, even on these first couple songs, like, can you imagine them without Sharon and Lori?
No, not really. I think they do accentuate what makes the album. And I wonder if she was trying to bring that from Fleetwood Mac over to her solo career.
Right, I never thought of that.
I mean, she would need some different singers, of course, but I wonder if she liked that element from Fleetwood Mac and bring it over.
And I do love that we're sitting in 2021 and she still sings with them. You know what I mean? Like, she was loyal to them. And, Waddy's still in her band. I think that's so cool, the loyalty she has. We won't even start going into the Lindsey Buckingham thing because I don't even know what to say about that. You know what I mean? I wasn't there. But clearly she does have a loyalty to some people in her musical life because she's still singing with, different people have come and gone through the years. Who was on the tour? Marilyn Martin, I think.
Yes. And she was somewhere there in the 80s as well, wasn't she? Like recordings and.
Yeah, she recorded a version of Sorcerer, I believe. That was on the Streets of Fire soundtrack.
Okay.
That's exactly correct.
Yep. So, all right. Well, moving on to Stop Dragging My Heart Around. I believe the legend is that Jimmy Iovine, am I saying it right?
Yep.
He listened to Stevie's album and he said, you need to have a hit on your album. It's a good album, but there's no hit. So apparently Tom Petty had the song laying around and he said that he would donate it to Stevie Nicks. And this turned out to be the lead single of her solo career. And I can't believe we're sitting here in 2021 and Tom Petty is no longer on this planet with us. Like, it's still hard to believe. Same with Prince.
Well, it's hard to believe. And to go with what you were saying about loyalty, he was very loyal or helpful. It seems like they had a couple little spats here and there, but
right.
That's another person that he seemed to kind of be there for her as well through her solo career.
Right. Like, even after like Street Angel, when they had their legendary meeting where he told her, write your own damn songs.
Yeah, this is what you gave up, family and kids, everything else. Go do it. Come on.
You know what? Trouble in Shangri-La was some of her best songwriting ever, in my opinion. I thought she came back really hard with that album.
She came out strong. Yeah. I don't like the middle.
Yeah, there's like
to me, Natalie Maines and her both have. Natalie has a really strong Southern accent, so and put that with Stevie. It's not my favorite.
Yeah, I definitely think the record company was involved in some choices on that album, but the first group of songs and the last group that she wrote herself.
Yes.
But thank you, Tom Petty, because I think Tom Petty we have to thank for that. So what do y'all think of Stop Dragging My Heart Around?
Where do you even begin with a song like that?
Right.
I mean, it was a complete song before Stevie even was introduced to it. And the reason why she had it was basically Jimmy Iovine, like you said, didn't think that they had a strong enough hit on the album. And it was like, all right, well, Julia was supposed to go in track number 3.
Oh, I love that song.
He didn't think it was, he thought that was the one that should get cut. and he was also the producer for the Heartbreakers, and they had demoed Stop Dragging My Heart Around. And Jimmy allegedly said to Tom, this is kind of more of a girl's song. It makes more sense from a girl's perspective. And he's like, oh, by the way, Stevie Nicks is like living in my basement for the last 3 months recording that album. It would work really well if you'd be into that. And even though it was essentially just Stevie adding her vocals to it,
right,
she really, just with her voice and just her like command of the actual song, she really makes it her own, even though Tom is still singing on it with her.
Right. I do remember those early Stevie Nicks albums. She always had the square microphone, and like in her concerts. So, Stevie, bring back the square microphone.
Yes.
Alicia, what do you think of Stop Dragging My Heart Around?
It's a great song. It's probably because it's been played so much, I'm now starting to kind of skip it. But it's
right.
It's kind of like the "My Heart Will Go On" for Celine sort of thing. It's everywhere if you go into Stevie land. But it's a great song. It's one of my favorite lines, and it's left me now, and it'll come back to me probably by the end of this. But it has great lyrics.
It really fits the album, even though Stevie didn't write it.
Yes, it does.
Sound-wise and lyric-wise, for some reason, it just really fits.
Yes, it does.
And
it does.
I'm going to say something you two might disagree with, and feel free to be like, Jeremy, shut up. But I honestly could do without this song in concert. Like, I don't need it sung with Waddy, and I don't need it sung with Chrissy Hynde. Like, I'd rather just have the Tom Petty version. How do y'all feel about the live versions? Just curious.
Well, now that I've heard it live, it's like, okay, I can do without it. I think the Christine Hynde thing for 24 Karat, I think that was just her way of bringing Christy back out on the stage for a duet. But I can see that at this point, but it's such a big hit that she's not going to get rid of it anytime soon.
And I'm sure it's fun for her to sing. You know what I mean?
Yes, I'm sure.
Any thoughts on Stop Dragging My Heart Around? Oh, go ahead, Kobe.
So for me, the live, obviously, she rocks it pretty much every time.
Sure.
And if it was her and Tom Petty doing it at any point, then obviously, no matter what other songs you have, what else are you going to do other than "I Will Run to You"?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have Stop Dragging My Heart Around.
But at this point, she has so many big hits and some like lesser known songs that are still hits, and that probably at least 50% of her audience will be like, whoa, that I don't feel like it would be dearly missed unless like every other song in her set list was an absolute rarity, but no artist is ever really done that.
Right. That I could easily lose Stop Dragging My Heart Around live for Rooms on Fire or Talk to Me. If you want to say like hit songs.
I could do Blue Lamp.
That would be great. Has she ever done that live?
Didn't she do it like for Belladonna tour, or the White Ring Dove tour? But we don't have. I've never seen like a audio or anything of it though. But
she did do it for the White Wing Dove tour, only for those 13 dates. I did post some shows from that do have audio. The best audio that I have is from her show in Phoenix, Arizona, and then there's also one from a bootleg of the final one that was televised, but
the HBO, which I remember that.
For some reason, they didn't actually film Blue Lamp or Think About It, or
How Still My Love also wasn't on there, right? Well, definitely after we finish talking about the album, I think we should touch on a few of the demos from this era, because being Stevie Nicks fans, there are songs that didn't make the album that were just as good, maybe if not better. But continuing on, Think About It was from the Rumors era, was it not? And it was about Christine McVie?
I'm not quite sure. It's probably my favorite song that's not the big hits off of this record.
Really?
Take that. So
I believe on the Rumors Deluxe Edition, there's a version of "Think About It." Is that true, Kobe, or am I totally imagining things?
I don't know if it's on the deluxe edition, but I do know that they did a recording of "Think About It" and "Sleeping Angel," because if I remember correctly, Stevie wrote "Think About It" essentially to convince Christine not to quit the band after he and John had some altercation, and Christine was just like, "This band is on fire."
I feel like they spent many years convincing Christine not to leave the band.
Well, she was doing it for another 5 years before Buckingham and Stevie joined. So,
and I love Christine McVie. So,
she's got a beautiful, warm voice.
I just love everything about her. My second car was the Christine McVehicle. So that demo version of "Think About It" almost has like a more scrappy kind of feel. So I feel like the direction they took it on Belladonna with the E Street Band was in the Heartbreakers, whoever plays on it, was so much better than the direction that Lindsay was taking it. So, Alicia, what is it that makes you love this song?
Well, to me, it's kind of got that dreamy feel to it. That piano, kind of like every time I listen to it, I feel like it's right there at the crack of dawn as she's singing this. Think about this as you go through the day. And so for me, that's what I always think. And it's very much, she starts talking about what you like, what you don't like. And so it's just, the lyrics are just great.
I love "I am just one small part of forever," then "falling star catcher," like such beautiful lyrics. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Sometimes I think it's Stevie lyrics, like I get like a little wet behind the eyes. Like there's just something about her that just, she takes me a place where no one else can.
Absolutely. So that's what makes me like it. And I guess after the first 3 songs that give you kind of that brooding, this one is that first song that has a little bit of optimism or a little bounce to it.
Right.
So it kind of gives you that a little bit of a breath as you're listening to this record, before you go into the next kind of Victorian goth run here. But yeah, it's just, I like it. And then the piano that's in it, it really gives it kind of that punch.
Which is great that on a Christine McVie song, the piano is awesome. Like that kind of had to happen. She's one of the best pianists of all time. Colby, what do you think about it?
Really, it's a very sweet song, and again, one of those songs that I feel like is really underrated because it's surrounded by "After the Glitter Fades" and "Stop Dragging," and the part I like about it the most, and I think what really makes this song, are again those harmonies with Lori and Sharon and the girls.
The girls, yes.
And really, with like the line you mentioned, "Star Capture," like when they call her back on that, that's my favorite moment of the entire song, and really sells the entire song for me.
Yeah,
because it just works so well lyrically and melodically, and it's a very worthy addition to the album.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, she had to do this solo career because all these songs, can you imagine if they never got recorded? Because she could only have like 3 songs on Mirage. You know what I mean?
Well, it'd be very interesting if because she didn't do her solo career, would she have pushed Fleetwood Mac to do more records?
Right. You always wonder, like, the alternate universe, what would have happened?
Well, the issue with that is, though, without Lindsay and Christine producing more songs at the rates that she was going, which they definitely can, and there are times when they have,
right?
Effectively, there might be a condition where there's an album in, like, say, 1988, Fleetwood Mac's Stevie Nicks.
Right.
I feel like that just wouldn't work well with the band. Although it would be definitely interesting to hear Lindsay's take on Edge of 17.
Oh my God, can you imagine? I never even thought of that. Like, that's blowing my mind.
Well, Well, I wanted to know what song did she never hand to Lindsay to produce that he wishes that he could have gotten his hands on.
Right.
Because I'm sure he's heard the solo music by now, or a good chunk of it over the years. So that's always been an interesting. I've never heard the answer, and of course, right now is not the time to try
Now's
to
not
find.
the time.
But
I know some of these songs had demos with, Lindsay, like Think About It. But I really can't picture Lindsay producing any of these songs. These are such Stevie Nicks solo songs, in my opinion. Do you think it's because Fleetwood Mac preferred her more like spacey? They always went towards a certain kind of Stevie Nicks song?
I can see that. They seem to go for either the direct, it's almost like a storytelling song,
right?
I think like Dreams or Storms, or they seem to go for the big epic song, or what I call big epic, like Sisters of the Moon or Rhiannon.
Gypsy.
Yeah, Gypsy is another one.
Stevie's still mad they didn't put What Has Rock and Roll Ever Done For You on Tango in the Night, which is an awful song in my opinion, but we're not quite there to that album yet, so I'll stop. Okay, so I'm going to say something that people are going to roll their eyes at, but After the Glitter Fades was never one of my favorite Stevie Nicks songs. Like, I always kind of like flipped over the record after thinking about it, so I'm going to let you two take this one on.
Well, I think she wrote it, in the early 70s, early mid 70s. So it's very prophetic of her writing this, talking about how, after the glitter fades, or after all the hoopla that happens from being a big rock star, this is still going to be what I want. This is still, it's very interesting. She was almost prophesying what would happen in her life.
Was this lined up for the second Buckingham Nicks album?
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised. It seems like it would fit in that time frame with him.
Because have you ever gone back and listened to the Buckingham Nicks versions of Rhiannon that they're doing on tour right before they disbanded and joined Fleetwood Mac? That's so weird to listen to. So go on YouTube after this and check it out.
Okay.
Don't play too fast, Lindsay.
Yeah,
he played so fast.
Yeah, really fast. Colby, what do you think of After the Glitter Fades?
Really, I think it's a very sweet song, and again, just like you said, Alicia, it is very prophetic. Like, here Stevie is, she's writing about Hollywood living when at the point she was just months ago a waitress, and she's nowhere near famous yet. And that's just really interesting to me that she does that a lot with a lot of different things.
Yeah, like with Landslide. So many songs. We could list them all night.
Exactly. But After the Glitter Fades, it's one of those Stevie songs where even though it has like a few moments of, this lyric is kind of contextually strange, it still holds together very, very well. And it just sounds so traditional. And when I first actually heard it as a Stevie Nicks song, it sounded familiar. And though I couldn't tell you where I first heard it, I'm sure I heard it played over the radio in like a Cracker Barrel or something.
Right.
And it's just very Stevie Nicks in like pure country.
Yes.
And it worked very well and shows that she's more than just a rock and roll singer.
So I guess, Belladonna side one, what a way to kick off a solo career. And I know we have one member in the Ledge who was saying like, Belladonna was great. It was all downhill from there. So I wish he was here to, interject his opinion, but, we're doing fine on our own. So moving over to side two, you flip over the record. How do you even talk about Edge of 17? You know what I mean? Like, we could be here for 4 hours talking about Edge of 17.
Yes. Yeah.
The guitar riff, the lyrics, the energy. I remember I bought this on CD in like 1993 because I had the record when I was younger, but then I bought the CD. I remember playing Edge of 17 and like at the same time a train went by. And that was like one of the most adrenaline like moments of my life. This song is like unmatchable in its energy. So yes. I don't even know where to start. I'm gonna let one of you start and then I'll jump in.
Well, I can't think of a live version that I don't like.
Right.
I mean, this is that song where, okay, I love Stevie because she does all these big epic songs. And then the era that she was writing in the 70s and 80s with vinyl, it's interesting because she almost had to compress some of these songs to fit them on record.
Right.
But that makes me wonder, like, how someone like Buckingham, when she introduced Sarah or something,
right,
how he look at her go, we only have 22 minutes on a side. But Edge and 17, I'm glad that it has like that 5.5 minutes. It's one of the longer songs,
and not 1 second too many. You know what I mean? Like every moment counts in this song.
And
it's weird, on the 24 Karat tour, doesn't she cut out a couple verses? And I'm like,
yes,
like, how, Stevie, how could you do this to us? Because that was a good version, you know what I mean? I thought that was a really good version of the song.
Well, I didn't really realize it until I was sitting in the theaters a couple months ago when she broadcast, and I went, no, she did it. That's mean. But I've always liked the live version. Of course, the live version can be anywhere from 7 to like 15 minutes long. But I remember hearing, and this is years ago, she actually didn't create the riff for the song.
Was it Waddy Wachtel?
I think it was. It was a piano-driven song for her, right. And then he had the riff, and she went, "Oh, that would be perfect." So they, that was kind of like a last-minute addition to this song.
Can you imagine how many times Waddy has had to play that one note? His wrist. That's why he has the bandages on his arms, just from Edge of 17. He's like, oh shit, my damn wrist. So just off the top of my head, I'm going to list off some things I think of when I think of 17, Edge of 17. I think of the story how she said that, wasn't it Tom Petty's wife with the Southern accent that said the age of 17, and she misheard it, and that's where she got the title from. Yes. I think of Bobby Hall's percussion that was so good on this, and then she did it in the tour, which I wish Stevie Nicks brought Bobby Hall back on percussion. Bobby Hall played on some Joni Mitchell albums too. So just a great percussionist that really added to the sound of the early Stevie albums. Sharon's solo, which is, she still does it to this day. There's just so many great moments. So let me stop. Kobe, what are some of your thoughts on Edge of 17?
Definitely a song that, well, as much as I love the record version, the live version absolutely blows it out of the water. Really, lyrically, this is definitely one of her rambly songs, but the production on it and the direction taken makes it really work, and it doesn't feel like that at all. I mean, nobody else can write a song about the death of John Lennon and her uncle and owls and a cactus and a misheard saying, and make it sound coherent as anything else. And you are right, she did cut out the sort of middle. I don't know if it's a bridge or not, but she cut out the edge wail and the verses about the sea never changing and all that.
Oh, right.
Which really makes me sad because those are my favorite lines.
Oh, I love those lines.
And in terms of live versions, every tour that she really did it had a different feel to it. Like the 1981 live version is totally different from the one she did in the Rock a Little tour versus Street Angel.
Can we talk about the Red Rocks version of Edge of 17 for just a moment? First of all, she starts speaking in tongues during the wail. And I have some like punk rock friends. I'm like, you have to watch the Stevie Nicks concert. Because like the Red Rocks tour is so bad how she did like the overdubs later. But then when you see like the original footage, like where she's like speaking in tongues during Edge of 17, that's not the overdub. That is the original concert right there. Have you guys seen? Have you both seen that?
I actually like it.
You like that version?
I remember starting to see it, and then I couldn't watch it just because it was so discombobulated. Like you said, they had to overdub it so much because she was so high.
See, that's my favorite. Like, I love the Red. And isn't that the first tour where she's like singing it to ya? Like, I think she did that on the Belladonna tour.
I think so.
Oh, Kobe. I think Kobe froze on us, but he'll come back.
Okay.
And of course, we also had to talk about the Edge Walk at the end of the end of every show. She didn't do that on this tour, though, did she?
No. Well, I wonder if it's because I've heard that she's having like hip problems these days.
Oh no.
Don't quote me on it, but I've heard that. So maybe she's having a tough time really bending and stooping and doing all those hands.
Kobe, you froze on us, but you're back. Thank God.
Yeah, my internet cut out briefly.
So yeah, that Red Rocks version, and then another. I gotta say one more thing, two more things about the Red Rocks version. Peter Frampton, why is he there? And then at the beginning, like when they're doing the riff, they're all like looking around, like, where's Stevie? Did you ever notice that? Like the beginning goes on for like 10 minutes, and they're all like looking around. And then she does the high five to the girls, like her hair's like this high. So like Stevie Nicks' Edge of 17, Red Rocks is one of my favorite moments of all time. But it's like the train wreck from hell. But so good too. Because so to my knowledge, there's two speaking in tongues Stevie moments. The Edge of 17 and then the Sisters of the Moon from the Mirage Tour.
Oh, that one's amazing.
Oh my God. She was channeling something right there. I don't know what it was, but it maybe a little cocaine. But in addition to that, like she was really feeling something like
That's got to be in like the top 20 best performances. That Sisters of the Moon
of all time, right?
Yes.
Her with the cowbell, like I'm like, go Stevie.
Yes.
First time I saw Stevie, I think was 2004, and she touched my hand during the Edge Walk. So
oh, look at you.
Yeah, that was cool. And do you remember in the Belladonna concert from HBO, like this? Didn't they throw a Snoopy on stage?
Yes. She had like tons of stuffed animals and everything. Poor thing.
And then another thing about the Red Rocks, when she had the dove in her hand and she kept trying to have it fly away and it wouldn't leave. Oh, after we do this podcast, I'm going to watch that whole thing on YouTube because I love every second of it. I remember when Time Space came out, because that was pre-internet. You didn't really know what a lot of these songs were about, and that was the first time as a Stevie Nicks fan that I got to really understand what some of these songs were about. So, reading that booklet, she kind of was the first time I understood. Like, I didn't know what Edge of 17 was about. She didn't really talk about it in interviews before then that I ever saw. There wasn't YouTube, so if you didn't catch an interview, you never saw it. So, as a Stevie fan, Time Space was awesome, but a weird era. I guess we'll get to that later. I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry. I just get excited about this stuff.
Well, that's fine.
Do you guys have any other thoughts on Edge of 17? Bootylicious. Remember the first tour I saw her, like she would play Bootylicious by Destiny's Child before she came out on stage. So you thought the concert was starting because you heard the riff, but then it was only Destiny's Child playing over the speaker. And doesn't Lindsay Lohan do a cover of Edge of 17?
I think so. Yeah, I know. Like 15 years ago, she was wanting to play Stevie in like a movie or something.
And didn't she say not in your dream, not on your life or something?
Yeah, because at that time, Lindsay was going through her train wreck of her drugs and this, that, and other. And it was kind of like, get your life straightened out and then we can talk.
Lindsay's version wasn't the worst thing I've ever heard. Like, I would never listen to it, but she didn't embarrass herself. I do have to say one more thing. There is one version of Edge of 17 I don't like. And that was when she recorded it, and there's like a version with like these disco-y strings on it. Isn't there, or am I imagining things? Wasn't there a version where she had more instruments that she ended up taking out of the mix?
You mean like a demo?
Yeah. Or like some early mixes of the studio version. I feel like there was a string part on there. And then she's doing like some bird calls kind of thing that she took out.
Like, well, there is an extended mix, like 820, where in the beginning, before there's any lyrics, it's just like, cool.
Yeah, maybe that's the version. I do not like that version.
Maybe.
And we all need to connect after this because there's gonna be things that we want to drop in the chat to each other. I feel like there's a version with like some strings that I just thought was terrible, but I could be imagining it. So I won't get stuck on this thought. I will move on to the next song. Any final thoughts?
I did upload a bunch of like demos, and Edge of 17 was among them. I know one or two of them got like, you can't put this on here, it's copyright. But the ones that are still up, there might be one in there. I don't remember that one, but with all of like the stuff that I've heard, I don't remember a lot of things. Yeah,
I started getting into the demos and stuff during the Napster era. So it was a really different time to like trade Stevie demos. And I guess if you guys are up for it, if you're not too tired, we're almost done with the album. I do want to talk about demos a little bit if y'all are up for it.
I'll try.
Okay.
Just so many.
Moving on, How Still My Love. Which doesn't she call it In the Still of the Night live sometimes? I feel like she introduces it with a different title. How do y'all feel about this song?
It's a really, like, I feel like it's a seductive song. It's a dark but seductive song. It's got a great beat. And then there's like an alternative version on that deluxe edition you were mentioning a little earlier. And that's really cool because that's a little bit longer.
Right.
I like the beat. I like how they did the sound for this song.
It's very slinky, I feel like.
Yes.
And the bridge, like she really wails on that bridge. Like, stand in.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. I feel that instrumentally they did a very similar thing to what they did with Kind of Woman. And as much as I love that, I do have to prefer those alternative versions and those other demos where the song was just a really hard, aggressive rocker. And I feel that Stevie's just absolute wailing, especially on some of those demos, really is a good follow-up to Edge of 17.
Right.
And, the song, it's very dark. It's kind of a lot of Stevie songs really are confusing if you try to overanalyze them, which is why I feel that a lot of times you just have to feel the songs.
Yes.
And I would agree with both of your assessments. I feel that it's a song that I feel has mixed emotions. It's not a breakup song, but at the same time, I don't think it's a love song either.
Right.
It's not a I hate you. It's not an I feel sad today. It's a mixture of 10,000 different things, and it really makes it unique.
And didn't she bring it back on a more recent tour, or am I imagining things?
Well, I know it was on Soundstage.
Soundstage, okay.
For a long time, it was kind of like a staple. She usually did it before Edge of 17 on a lot of her tours.
Right.
I do know that she did do some tours without it.
Wasn't Edge of 17 and How Still My Love both fresh songs around the time of Belladonna? These were not old demos, were they?
I think Edge was fresh because she was talking about John Lennon and he passed away there. I'm not a Beatles fan, but was it like 79 or 80, somewhere in that neighborhood?
Yeah. I think that was the last song she wrote for the album. Wasn't it the most recent? And then it went right on there.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I want to say How Still My Love has piano demos from like 79, maybe 78, but it definitely wasn't fleshed out until Belladonna.
Okay, so maybe she wrote, that was one of like the 2000 songs she wrote during the Tusk tour. Any thoughts on How Still My Love before we move on?
I like the live version, but it's longer. It's I like how she kind of pares it down, so it's about 3.5 minutes on the record. So I know for me, when I was listening to it, I would always repeat it to kind of get my feel for it. But
so moving on to Leather and Lace. First of all, earlier I said like stop dragging my heart around. I don't need it live without Tom Petty. I will say that I always loved the version of Leather and Lace that she does in 3-part harmony with the girls. Like I thought that was just as good as the Don Henley version, if not better. But that was just like a personal preference. I thought it sounded beautiful with the 3 girls singing it. Legend has it, wasn't the song written for Waylon Jennings and his wife, Jessie?
Yes.
1976.
Yep, but they broke up and Waylon wanted to sing it solo, but she's like, no, it either has to be me and Don Henley or you and your wife. That's at least what I remember. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a demo of her and Don Henley from when she wrote it, right? Or am I imagining things?
Yes, from 1976. And really throughout the years, she said that she was like working on it, trying to perfect it. And there is I think a solo demo and a duet demo with her and Don Henley from 76. And it sounds very similar to the one we have, except her voice is much higher and the harmonies are much higher.
Sure.
And it's really refreshing to hear.
It's interesting because like the evolution of Stevie's voice, I feel like the way her voice was kind of changed with each album. If you hear a song you've never heard before, just by her voice, you can kind of tell what year it was. Like,
yes.
In Belladonna, her voice had dropped after the Tusk tour, but it wasn't quite as raspy as Wild Heart. And we won't even go talk about her voice during the Rock a Little era. her many ad-libs during the concerts. But yeah, the original Leather and Lace demo she had such a high voice in those early years, you know, the original recording of Rhiannon and stuff. I love that original Stevie voice. But I don't mind her voice now either. You know what I mean? I love it. Sign me up for the whole thing. I really don't know what else to say about this song. I think I'm not a huge Eagles fan, but you know, Don Henley's fine on this song. It's a nice song.
Well, I would say this is probably my favorite duet out of the two that she does for this album.
Yes.
I like this one more than Stop Dragging. But that's just me.
It's a beautiful song. Like even the sentiment, the
Yes.
lyrics, like beautiful songwriting. And I'm glad Waylon Jennings didn't record it. This needed to be Stevie and Don Henley.
Well, it would be interesting to hear I guess Waylon would have put it as a very, very country song.
Right.
So that would fit with what she did with After the Glitter Fades. It would have there's some country songs that she's kind of placed, made them a little more rock, I guess, for this record. But
my stepdad had a Waylon and Willie album, and I feel like they did a version of Gold Dust Woman on it. I could totally be wrong, but I believe they did, and you know the world could have been okay without that. Any thoughts on? Oh, go ahead, Kobe.
It's one of those songs that really, again, it's timeless and almost in a way journalist. Like you could play it on a country station and nobody would think, what's that doing on here? That doesn't belong here. But you could really play it on almost any station except maybe like a rap or hip hop station, and
sure,
it would have a way that it fit. And that really, again, is part of why this album is so strong, because so many of these songs don't sound like, oh, this is 1981 again. It sounds
timeless.
It's right now.
Yeah. And that kind of like tinkly bell sound she used, she never really used that again. Maybe there was that song Touched by an Angel that kind of had that sound a little bit. But other than that, that's really unique to this song in the Stevie Nicks universe, in my opinion. So, all right. Any other thoughts on Leather and Lace before we move on? All right. Well, when I was a kid, I always skipped by Outside the Rain. But then when I got in my 20s and bought the Red Rocks and the HBO thing on VHS, how she would always go from dreams or Outside the Rain into dreams, right?
Mm-hmm.
I began to love this song, and now I absolutely love it. Like this is kind of an epic song itself. And what do you guys think of it?
Well, I love it. It's probably in my top 10 most played songs on iTunes. So I always have to play it like 2 or 3 times before I go and finish with Highwayman. But
right.
It's got that. I love the lyrics. Outside the Rain. First time I listened to it, it made me stop and think. It almost makes you feel like she's taking you outside of like reality or into an alternate universe with that line. And then she starts talking about how she would like for this to get back together. And I like the creature after a week line that she has in there. And it's just it's got different, it's original, but it's got different lyrics or symbolism, which I think is what makes Stevie so good. And then, of course, everybody talks about that line at the very, very end. Is it
I got my little lyric book here. Let me look it up.
You've won the game of life, or something about love. I'm drawing a lot of blanks.
Love is a word that some entertain. If you find it, you have won the game.
Yes. And that I love it. I almost like listen to it to look for it when I hear live bootlegs and things.
Right.
Sometimes she doesn't even sing that line, which is very interesting.
Now, do you know what line I could do without when she does it live? When she's like, "And Mick says there's one more link in the chain." Like, that's not my favorite version of "Outside the Rain." Keep Mick out of this one.
Well, sometimes she says, Stevie, you're just a part of the chain or link of the chain. She does change it up occasionally, but when she does do Mick, it is kind of.
I think that's another Red Rocks thing. I get stuck on that Red Rocks concert.
There is one infamous version of that line in, I believe, Dallas of the Wild Heart tour, where she straight up curses and says, and Mick says, "Stevie, like just one more link in the goddamn chain."
Oh,
it's very powerful because she's absolutely wailing that. And Stevie's like, "I never curse on stage," but there have been like a few brief moments where she is just like gone at it. And I don't even know if she noticed or intentioned it, but
I got to look that up. I'm intrigued.
No, it's great. And it's a really strong performance too. One thing I always wish she did, which she never did, Sable on Blonde live, but I figured at least maybe for a one-off performance, it'd be interesting if she did Outside the Rain and then instead of Into Dreams, into Sable on Blonde. Because
those songs are kind of similar in my mind. Like they're kind of like towards the end of the album.
Used the melody of Dreams for Sable on Blonde because she just liked it so much and wanted to write something else for it.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, she has this, the only time she said like fuck or the F word was like when the security guard during was it Other Side of the Mirror tour, like the security was like harassing the audience and she cursed him out on the stage. So yeah, you don't hear Stevie swear very often. Why does she go into dreams? Like, how are these songs related? They weren't written at the same time, were they?
I don't believe so. I think it was just thinking about opening. So when Stevie went out on, her first tour, she didn't want to just do all of her new songs and do just like one Fleetwood Mac song, because if her new songs weren't received well, then nobody would really like the show, which is why they started off with Gold Dust Woman.
Which is cool. I love that version.
I never knew why they made the decision, but it works well. I don't know if musically the actual songs are similar, but the transition they do into it is very well.
Yeah.
And I feel that at least in the beginning they did that idea so that they could put this, brand new Stevie song that was really kind of different from her Fleetwood Mac material and then merge into So Familiar. And that, I think, introduces the audience to the new Stevie.
I guess lyrically she's saying Outside the Rain, then in Dreams she's saying thunder only happens when it's raining. So maybe there's the weather link. But I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but I love during the Red Rocks when she comes out of Outside the Rain and goes into Dreams, like she totally misses the first line. Like she runs up to the microphone and totally misses that line.
She does that a lot.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I just love this woman so much. I can't imagine my life without Stevie Nicks. Like I would definitely be a different person. I don't know.
During the Street Angel tour, there's this one performance of Rhiannon where she decides, I don't know what was going through her head because she was sober at this time.
Yeah.
She literally does not sing the second verse at all. She just stands there and just kind of like waves her arms.
Oh gosh.
And obviously it wasn't rehearsed because Laurie and Shannon go, she rings, but then they stop because they realize Stevie is not singing. And at the end of it, they finish out the song. And at the end of it, she says, it was written differently, and I just wanted to show you how it was when I wrote it. And it's like, what?
She's so crazy sometimes. I love it. That's the wrong word, but like, she's awesome.
Chaotic.
Chaotic. That's a much better word. Crazy has a negative connotation. Street Angel tour. Her voice was in really good form on that tour, though, wasn't it?
I thought so. I think that really was one of her vocal primes.
Yeah.
And on the shows in the Other Side of the Mirror tour where she wasn't really affected by the Klonopin, like Houston '89, that really is very powerful vocals as well.
I remember a magazine came out, and we'll talk about this in a future month. But like during Street Angel on the record, they're like, she's sounding more like Bon Jovi than Stevie Nicks, which I thought was like, her voice did change. But during the concert, I thought she sounded like Stevie Nicks again during the Street Angel tour. So we can't help but jump ahead because we love her whole body of work. The Highwayman. This is like After the Glitter Fades. This was never one of my favorite songs. So I'm going to let you all take this one away if you'd like to.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of like you. This is a song that I didn't like for several years, and I've heard it here in the last year or two, and I've gone, this isn't really that bad. It's literally a storytelling. I mean, like something like White Seagull that she did for In Your Dreams. It's very much, and it's another country kind of country-ish song for this record.
Don Henley's back for this one, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he does the harmonies. Like he doesn't do a duet, but he's in there in the harmony.
So
did Stevie ever go quite as country again as she did on this album? I know, like, That's All Right was a little country-ish, but I feel like the slide guitar and stuff, like she never was quite this country again, I don't think.
Not as heavily. Trouble in Shangri-La had a few moments like with Too Far from Texas, but that was like it was a different form of country. She's had a few like one-off songs that are like, yeah, that's kind of country, like For What It's Worth, really.
Oh, I love For What It's Worth.
Since that. But a lot of her songs, I think, are in the middle ground. They take elements from each and they just become Stevie.
A Stevie song, right.
Well, I've heard that Street Angel is probably her most country record. I've heard that comment over the years. Yeah, with like Rose Garden.
I love Rose Garden.
I do too, but they're like that version on that record. It's kind of got a more country sound to it. Maybe not the steel guitar, but kind of a 90s country element. And Just Like a Woman, and there's one or two others on that record that people have said it definitely seems to harken back to that, her grandfather and country music and everything.
Can't we just skip to May? I want it to be May so we can talk about Street Angel. I'm gonna be going crazy when we start talking about Street Angel. So before we wrap up this discussion, let's just talk about some of the demos from this era. My favorite is Julia. Like, I just think it's such an epic, beautiful song. Jimmy didn't like it. It was supposed to be on Belladonna and got kicked off. Wasn't it supposed to be on Wild Heart and it got kicked off?
Yep, they did a full recorded version on Wild Heart that really sounds almost identical to the one on not Julia, that's a song.
On Belladonna, right? But the tempo's a little different, right? Just slightly?
Slightly. The harmonies are slightly different, but really it's the exact same song. But again, it got kicked off with Jimmy Iovine, and there was rumors that she recorded it for The Other Side of the Mirror, but we don't have any demos of that.
I read it was recorded for Rock a Little, but I've never heard any evidence of that. Have you?
It probably was. It definitely was a song that very well could have been. But again, there's just nothing circulating. Like, we know she recorded The Dealer for Rock a Little, and there's an instrumental demo of it. But
I heard that
demo.
Yeah, I don't need the Rock Little version of The Dealer or Julia. Maybe it was The Dealer I was thinking of, actually, for Rock a Little.
Maybe. There was also, it's believed that she recorded or at least started recording it for 24 Karat Gold. And she has said that she still does want to record the song. But I don't know really when that will happen. But that might be why there wasn't a version of it on the deluxe reissues.
I couldn't believe that it wasn't on 24 Karat Gold, because I think of this as one of her landmark. It's such a wintry, beautiful song. Like, I love Julia. There's a bunch of stuff from 24 Karat Gold that was from this era, though, wasn't there? Like the Dealer got demoed for Tusk, but there's a full-on Belladonna version that I love. I love the Belladonna version of Dealer. Where she's talking about.
It's like another prophetic song from her, which is really interesting.
Is Belle Fleur from this era?
Yes.
Yeah, so many good songs. And
then 24 Karat itself, Chain a Chain, it's from Belladonna as well.
Those early Belladonna demos of 24 Karat Gold were really weird at times. But
so weird.
Again, it had that sort of weird magic to it.
And that was one song on 24 Karat Gold and we'll talk about it later when we get to it, but I really feel like she recaptured the Stevie Nicks, like really the magic was still there in that song. I love the version that she did. And it's cool that she could do an album of her demos like 20 something years later. And some of those versions were just as good as the original demos, in my opinion. I thought I do like the Belladonna Dealer a little bit better because I thought she really stretched with some of the notes in the new version. And it wasn't the original version so effortless, like the way she sang it. That's just a personal preference.
Right. One thing with Belladonna is I think out of all of her records, it probably has the most songs that either were basically complete and ready to go or almost there. Like she had Baby Doll recorded, she had Sanctuary, she got pretty close on Gypsy, Starshine, Julia, and all these songs that really are strong songs and very well with slightly more work or in some cases none wouldn't really have felt out of place on the album at all.
I'm so glad Gypsy didn't end up on Belladonna though, because I don't really care for the Belladonna version. I thought that was a good match for Lindsay. He did something with Gypsy that just made it next level for me. What do you guys think?
Yes, his little riffs that make it feel like the lightning is coming through here and there is really sets Gypsy apart.
I also feel like we should talk a little bit more about Blue Lamb because that was from Belladonna. Wasn't that even actually on Belladonna at one point, or am I imagining things?
I think it was a one-off song that was floating around.
Okay.
It was recorded for Belladonna, but it was given to the soundtrack of this weird
heavy metal, right?
Like, basically extended music video heavy metal. Yeah, it's only in there for like a minute and a half. That movie was weird.
But, that's a weird Stevie song. Like it's one of my favorite Stevie songs, but she doesn't really have any other songs that sound like Blue Lamb.
Instrumentally, I feel that song is absolutely totally unique. I've never heard anything else like it.
Nothing like it.
Very powerful. And there's one demo around where the instrumental is fairly the same, but it's extended a little bit into the ending, and Stevie just like starts wailing, and it's one of those songs that if it had been given the right position would have been like a sleeper hit.
Sure. And doesn't she lift some of the lyrics and use them in Welcome to the Room, Sarah? Outside where the big old house is mine.
Yeah, she does.
Which I always thought was weird. What are some other songs? I'm trying to think of some other Belladonna songs before we wrap this up because I could talk.
Sleeping Angel.
Oh, Sleeping Angel! I love that song. Which ended up on the Fast Times at Ridgemont High soundtrack. Let me look at our deluxe edition CD here.
Well, you also have If You Were My Love.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. Which took them so many years to make that song happen. And I had to say the Street Angel version of If You Were My Love is one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, really? I liked how they did the Cross You Bear. Her and the girls kind of, I don't know how to explain it. She sings it. It's kind of like overlapping. I thought that was really cool on that version.
Wasn't it almost like a tango version, like bossa nova?
I've heard it described as Hawaiian, and it's very weird for Stevie's style. Yes. I don't dislike it, but I can see why they didn't put it on the album.
Let me rephrase it. I think it's awful, but I love it. Does that make sense? Like, it's just one of those things like, do we need the Hawaiian version of If You Were My Love? Well, yes, I do. I do need it. But I think I like with 24 Karat Gold how they kind of took different things from all the years and then made a definitive version. Like, and seeing it in concert, like as Stevie fans, did you ever think you'd sit in a concert hall and hear a live version of If You Were My Love? Like, so cool.
No.
So it's a good time to be a fan.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to see how many more songs she's got in that gothic trunk of hers.
Yeah.
We think we know what she's got in there, but I wonder how many songs she wrote in the 70s.
Because it's interesting when 24 Karat Gold came out, and I guess we're kind of jumping the gun, but we can talk about this again later. There were songs on that album that I like. What was the song about Tom Petty? Hard Advice. I never knew of that song. Like, so she has songs that I never even knew about. I didn't know about I Don't Care. I guess that was only like a snippet from the 80s and she finished writing it, but I bet she has songs that we don't even know exist.
Definitely. I mean, really the only reason why we know things exist is because either people had these recordings. Like, I know that, I think, didn't her brother like get stuff out at one point?
Oh, really?
I don't know how true that is. I just heard that it happened.
Right.
And then I know some people stole stuff somehow, which is horrible. The only thing that Stevie herself actually leaked was after the Pulse nightclub shooting, she leaked out a demo version of Touched by an Angel, like in honor.
Oh yeah, she did.
Other than that, it's just really chance that we have a lot of this stuff at all.
Was Secret Love from this era?
Secret Love was in 78, 79, but I don't think she recorded it for Belladonna.
Okay.
Or if she did, we don't know about it.
Well, I had so much fun. Thank you all so much for talking Stevie with me. This is like awesome. Does anyone have any final thoughts on Belladonna before I do wrap it up?
No.
One random thing. This is a weird idea I had. So we all know that Jimmy Iovine was basically, well, you need a hit single, Stevie. Here's Stop Dragging My Heart Around. I feel that the one Stevie song that really could have had a similar power, if done right, would have been Smile at You, which we know she did for Tusk. And I feel that it has enough aggression and enough really hard rock energy similar to Stop Dragging My Heart Around that it would be interesting to see if it would have been successful in place of that. Although I am glad that we do have that Stevie Tom Petty duet that spawned so many other Stevie Tom Petty duets.
See, I never loved the version, the Mirage version of that Smile at You. I just thought it just was kind of like plotted. But I actually liked the Say You Will version. Did you like it? Like when she finally released it, I thought it was pretty good.
I'm the opposite. I liked the Mirage version because it was just full on anger.
She was pissed for sure.
Yes. It made me want to go, who pissed you off for this? I mean, who's she writing about? And it seemed like for the Say You Will version, I guess she just didn't have that anger anymore.
She's kind of going through the motions a little bit.
Yeah. And I wonder if she couldn't hit some of those notes.
For sure. I think what I liked about that version is John McVie did a killer bass line. But Stevie's performance, the Mirage one was off the chain. Well, thank you all so much. Kobe, do you want to promote your YouTube channel before I wrap things up?
Sure. I haven't posted some stuff in a little bit because I've just been wrapped up in a whole bunch of other life stuff. But already out, I have the channel is just Kobayas, same as my little name, but I can't point to it because that's not how screens work. I have a bunch of Stevie Fleetwood Mac demos, a bunch of live shows. I think I've put out everything of Stevie from every show that I have and that I know people have, from the White Winged Dove tour through the Rock a Little tour, and I have some of the Other Side of the Mirror and other stuff out. And I do hope one day to be able to basically put everything out there, because one of the coolest things for me is every now and then I'll get a comment like, I was at this show. I haven't heard this since I was 13.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's really weird. I actually had one person say, I made the original tape of this.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Which is like, it's a small world when you have the internet.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, there's some crazy stuff on there. I've put out everything that YouTube will let me. And yeah.
Well, thank you for doing that. From one Stevie fan to the other, thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you.
Even though Stevie's over at her house, like Oh, putting my concerts online. But if people wouldn't have put her music online, we would have never had 24 Karat Gold, the album, or the tour. And I think that was one of the creative highlights of her life. I mean, you can just see her joy in this whole era.
Well, I wouldn't complain if she would release official copies of all these different concerts, but
right,
you know, because like we said earlier, each era it's kind of different. They kind of did rearrangements.
I'd love a box set of a live DVD or CD from maybe every era, because I would listen to that without a doubt.
Too.
Or maybe
however,
like
I don't think she would want anything from Rock a Little to Street Angel. For whatever reason, that 10 years there, it's like she's taken it out back and buried it.
Right.
Which makes those years interesting.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot to talk about in the future. So I have loved talking to you too about Stevie Nicks. I do hope you join me in February for Wild Heart. And then, we'll move forward month by month. My name is Jeremy Gloff. You can find me on Facebook. Please like the Phonogenics 101 channel on YouTube and go to my Patreon, patreon.com/Jeremy Gloff. And I will see you on the other side of the mirror, everybody.
Ha ha.
All right. I'll see you all next time. Thank you so much.